Well, happy Friday, everyone. I figured we could do just a little workshop for FRQ before your AP test on Monday for Gov. So, government has the pleasure of being the first AP test on the schedule this year. Hopefully, you've been studying because it's on Monday. And just a few reminders about that before we get started. It is Monday at 8 a.m. Um, I would highly recommend being in the room no later than 7:45. If you're not sure where you're testing for Gov or any other AP test, then I would go to total registration. It's where you pay for your exams on the Plano East side of things. So if you can't get into total registration, please do that first. Your parents may have signed you up and paid and done all of that. So just double check with them also if they know how to. But if you're getting down to the end of the day and you're kind of panicking and you're like, I don't know where to go on Monday, shoot me an email or drop by my room, and I should be able to look up what room you're in. If you look on total registration and it says library, then of course you will be in the library, and but in just kind of like the general open seating section with the tables, or that maybe they will set up desk in like the large area. If it says library PR, that's the library project room. And it is just off to like whenever you walk in the library, walk to the right, and it's you'll see the glass room, the windows separating the room, and it says project actually up against the far wall. So you'll be in one of those rooms testing. So, if, like I said, total registration, but if you can't figure it out towards the end of the day, shoot me an email or come by my room before 136 is my room number, and I should be able to help you out there. Just for Gov, I can't view any of the other test locations, so sorry about that. All right, well, let's get started with our little FRQ workshop. The reason I want to do this is because now that you've seen all the FRQs, there's a lot of what you can kind of practice and gather for something like this, even though it's specific to the quantitative, are helpful reminders for all of the FRQs that you've written. So first step is to swap papers with somebody next to you. So at this point, if you don't have your papers yet, Ms. Hilton will pass them out. And you can just pause the video for a second and then resume if that is the case. If so, make sure you don't have your paper in front of you. If you hadn't written this yet and you hadn't had a chance to make it up yet, that's fine. Miss Hilton will just get you a, a copy of the prompt. And as we go and we're talking through this, you can kind of like fill in and write out your answers based on what we discuss. So once you swap papers, hopefully you've done that by now. Get a writing utensil that is not in the same color that the person wrote in. If you don't have a different color pen, that's fine. A pencil even is different enough to um, see the changes that you've made from what they've written. I'm just waiting, by the way. If you have a writing utensil, that's good. Maybe I'll tell a story while we wait. It all started back in 1990 in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. No, I'm just kidding. That is where I was born and the year. But uh, anyway, moving on. Number three, Follow along with me and be ready to make notes, circle things, draw lines, etc. So as we kind of go through this prompt in the next part of the video, um, you somebody may get all 4 points, right? And that's fine. But even if somebody like does say all the things, I still want you to circle the things that they do good or underline them, whatever kind of annotation you use. But also, even if they get the question right technically, let's say it's kind of like worded weird, or it seemed like they're kind of contradicting themselves or didn't explain something fully, make note of that, right? Put a question mark, or write out to the side, like, need percentages or whatever the case may be. Make some type of note. If it's perfect, then it's perfect. But this is something for you and for the person who you're grading to get something out of it. So here we go. So here we are looking at our quantitative analysis prompt that your class was given. And just to quickly introduce these, especially for those of you that hadn't written this yet, we have chart A, use of internet for Latino adults, starting from 2009, stopping down quickly in 2012, and then ending with 2015. 64% to 84% increase. Chart B, use of internet among Latino adults by language dominance. So a little bit more specific information. Again, same year range, but as you can see from our key over here, that our top line is English dominant, how it changed over the years. Bilingual is a solid line, and Spanish is the dashed. Spanish dominant is the dashed. Now, going down to our questions here. A, identify the percentage of bilingual Latino adults in the United States using the internet in 2009. So we're looking for the percentage of bilingual Latino adults, which means we're going to have to be using chart B because that's the only one that designates bilingual. This is just Latino adults, right? So make sure you pay attention to what the question is asking because it wants what this solid line is, right? Did it say bilingual adults? Yes, it did. Okay, cool. Just making sure. So here, bilingual, then what you need to do is uh, identify in 2009, right, this year here, what the percentage was for bilingual adults, 76%. Now, it's fine if the person just put 76%. I do encourage students to write out a full sentence using language of the prompt, because then whenever you can like just go back and read that sentence real quick, and if it mirrors the prompt language, then you're less likely to say accidentally choose English dominant, right? So like you write it out, the uh, percentage of bilingual Latino adults in the United States using the internet in 2009 was 76%. And then you go back and like look and check and make sure like, yes, that's what it was, right? I find that mistakes are made less often that way. But, take a second, look through this, and make any marks. Of course, if it's wrong, like just kind of put an X through it and put the right answer, things like that. If it's right, but there was maybe some confusing wording or something like that, then maybe just circle it and make a note. Moving on to B, describe the most significant increase in internet usage in chart B. Now, so it's directing us to chart B here, and we're looking for the most significant increase. Now, luckily for us, they're all overall increases. And this one is clearly the most significant. So it's from 36% to 74, and it is our dashed line, which is, according to our key, Spanish dominant. So we're going to describe as it says. So you should be writing out and describing the most significant increase in chart B. So for this, what you're looking for in their answer is, do they identify correctly that it is the Spanish dominant line in chart B. And also what you're looking for is that they say specifically it increased from 36% in 2009 to 74% in 2015. You want the numbers, you want the percentages. All right. So take a second, look through that and look for those three elements specifically that they say it increased from 36 to 74, and also that it was the Spanish dominant population amongst, and if they say things like amongst the Latino adults, things like that, that's fine too. But the three things you're looking for is 36, 74, and Spanish dominant. Also, if you're waiting and you've already done this, pretty pictures are always nice. All right, C. And if you need to pause this for a little bit more time, just scream out at a reasonable volume and you can pause it and then resume it. C, draw a conclusion about how the increase identified in Part B affects the trend in Chart A. Again, this is where I recommend using language from the prompt question to make sure you don't get tripped up. All right. So we're drawing a conclusion. So we need to come to some type of answer about how the increase identified in Part B, referring to that increase in Spanish dominant speakers using the internet from 36 to 74. So that is what it's referencing, affects the trend in Chart A. The trend in Chart A is that overall for Latino adults, internet usage decreased from 64% to 84%. What we're doing here is we're drawing a correlation between this increase to this increase. So in your answer, you should have something along the lines of the sharp increase in Spanish dominant voters from 36 to 74 attributed to the 20% increase in Chart A amongst all Latino voters from 64 to 84. Right. So you need to spell it out, right? Pretend that you need to tell me everything. So if the person doesn't have those specific kind of like steps along the way and the numbers that correlate with it, make note of that and make corrections as needed. All right, let's take a look at D. For those of you that especially that haven't written this yet, you're like, what does any of this have to do with government and politics? Well, D finally kind of brings it home for us. So explain how a trend in Chart B could influence campaign strategies after 2015. All right, so trend in Chart B influence campaign strategies after 2015. So the big change that we see in Chart B is that there's a huge uptick in Latino adults that are using the internet, especially Spanish dominant Latino adults. So if your kind of brain is going and you're thinking like, oh, well, that going 2015 and forward, um, you're probably going to want to cater to more Spanish speaking populations, especially those campaigns who have large Latino adult populations. So, Texas would probably be, somebody who wants to pay attention to these numbers, right? So, campaign strategies after 2015. Now, keep in mind that this is use of internet, right? So, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have in the answer to possibly increase internet ads, any type of social media campaigns or YouTube videos or internet commercials, more catered to Spanish speaking populations only, right? So it's not that the campaign just completely neglects English or bilingual, but it is keying in on there's a large percentage of population now that we can tap into that's now using the internet. All right. So uh, the first thing you have to do, though, is in D, explain how a trend in chart B, right? And so this trend in chart B of this sharp increase in Spanish dominant Latino adults using the internet is competing with now um, English dominant and bilingual Latino adult internet users, right? So that competition now that in the running is something to take note of, and with that, then you'd move into your campaign strategy, right? So if you didn't identify the trend, you need to identify that and then explain whatever your campaign strategy would be moving forward. All right. So just 30 seconds or so just to finish this up. And then I'm going to go ahead and end this video. And then once you're done with this, return your papers back to their original owners. Each person just kind of taking just a minute or two to explain what they saw and what needed to be clarified, what could they work on, did they need to be more specific, things like that. All right, so just kind of explain back and forth with the person you traded with, and then once you're done with that, you can bring your papers back up to Miss Hilton and she will collect them from you. All right. After that, head over to Google Classroom and check what's going on for the rest of today. Have a good weekend.